So I don't think that changes in such organizations happen that quickly, and it's a lot to do with why. I think it's not so much a matter of how best can I change the organization, but why was this deal made for in the first place? And I think we can see a big gap, A, between what Elon Musk says and does, and B, I think more than anything that this kind of deal really shows or unmasks the problem we have with social media today as a whole, and with the town hall being held by private hands, whether they are Musk's hands or others.
Jared, I want to come to you on another angle of this. We've seen the reactions have been fairly emotional today already emerging on this. Surprising to me watching this, that his takeover is now generating so many strong responses. Are there inherent dangers in really the world's most wealthy individual, who also happens to be in the forefront of artificial intelligence, space exploration, et cetera, now taking over social media? And on another layer, he doesn't appear to be a conspiracy theorist or a fringe ideologue, is he?
No, he doesn't. He basically is one of the largest internet trolls out there, right? So he can spark up a market real quickly and change his ideas from one to the next. So he can make a poll saying, hey, do you want Trump to come back to Twitter? And then, oh man, the fire will start. So I do think that he maybe has it in his heart that he thinks that freedom of speech needs to kind of live on. But it's hard to understand where he's coming from, because he is the richest man in the world right now. And from what I see on Twitter, you have basically people on both sides of the spectrum. You have Republicans, obviously, they're very happy. They're going to be coming back to Twitter because they seemingly will not be censored anymore. And then you have the Democrats or the liberals who are going to be sitting there and saying, well, oh, so I can't say anything bad anymore. So now it's like, you know, the shoes on the other foot, so to speak.
And jumping back to you, Liad, yes.
Isn't that more than that? Isn't that about ideology? I mean, in the end of the day, what Twitter as a brand tried to look at is as free speech in a liberal way. Whereas what we see today is that as long as part of you and me, our digital identity is owned by corporations, whether they are public or private, and there's a big speech about whether you'll take it out of the market or in the market. I don't see it. I see all of that as one big problem of ideology. Do we accept that our communication, that part of our identity, is owned by these people? And if we do, why are we so outraged that one of them buys the other? The problem is rooted in the idea that the new age, the 21st century man, is partially digital, and then who owns that digital part of me, of you? And again, in Safehouse we say that a lot, but I truly think that if any one of the side had in his heart the ability to really, and Elon Musk is talking about liberty and so on, really us in mind, they will give us the opportunity to control that part of our digital identity instead of trying to gain control over it. And we see this kind of feedback from both sides, that they feel they are being censored while they feel they are being censored. But in the end of the day, that move is a move against the ideology of a free part of the digital world.
And that brings up some interesting questions. And Jared, your thought on this? I mean, what was behind this move? Was this economics? Was it free speech, ideology, or was it something deeper? I mean, Musk himself talks about his artificial intelligence endeavors as his main interest, his main passion, his main way forward. Was this a massive data harvest, essentially, taking Twitter?
I don't think it was anything to do with economics, to tell you the truth. I don't think it has really. I think freedom of speech is probably a veil. Data harvesting, it's a stretch, but at the same time, I could see it happening. I could see Elon Musk. He's that type of guy. He needs to drive his companies, right? He needs to kind of gain money. So in this case, he could be going for that data driven. I think, though, given to his own social media presence, Elon Musk is that type of guy that will cover every track that he takes, right? So if he's data harvesting our already out there data, I do see that I mean, Facebook is doing this. All the big tech are already doing this. So now that it's in Elon Musk's hands, what would he want to do with that data?
And yes,
I think that if you don't mind me trying to, I agree completely with my colleague here, but I think more importantly, it's about the economy of our world and not just the dollar. Elon Musk says himself he's not buying Twitter to make money out of that. But why would any bandit baron in the 30s would buy a newspaper? Because the medium is the message. And this is a new medium that until today we felt was owned by the people who created it. And what we see right now is that it's evolving as news outlets evolve into the stage where multi-trillionaires or whatever are buying it, because now you don't only control what is being said, but you also control the means of people to say what they have to say. And this is much more important than that data or the other data. The idea that I can control and own an outlet of communication that is interpersonal, again, part of our social identity, is as big as important to the capitalistic movement as a whole and to Musk himself personally, because now Liad, he can be the new Damien Hirst.
Who's going to regulate? I mean, who should be stepping into this space? And we saw, just to add another layer here, Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, owner of Washington Post, he seemingly seemed jealous in a way with his reactions, calling on maybe it needs to be investigated about ties to China, but drawing attention to the fact that does this need to be regulated? Should there be more oversight? And what happens now?
You work in a news outlet, and you are under specific regulations to protect me from you abusing your power. It has no difference when it comes to social media. And I believe my colleague here will agree with me when I say that we do need to see the political or governmental elements within each and every one of our countries taking a bigger part in not regulating the content. It's not about censorship. It's about understanding what are the rules of debate. Do we allow Nazis in Twitter? Yes or no? Do we allow people to behave whatever they want? Because I can think we all agree that no matter who controls Twitter, we will not allow for pedophiles to be on the platform, right? But that's a sort of regulation. Then again, I truly believe that this is on us to go both to the regulator themselves and to new technologies like the one we provide, to provide those kind of boundaries into the system. And then someone like Elon Musk comes and truly believes that he can buy the rules of the game with dollars. We need to be the one who are outraged.
Jared, I want to get your thoughts. We're about a minute till we got on a break. I'm going to keep both of you after the break here. I want to continue this discussion. But Jared, any thoughts here?
I think obviously, yeah. If we don't want Nazis on any sort of social media platform, we don't want any sort of pedophiles. But at the same time, I feel like before Elon Musk even joined Twitter, in terms of purchasing it, we saw that anything you were to say, even if it was about vaccination or if you had a different mindset from big technology, so anything against Facebook, anything against Twitter, in terms of anything against Biden, for example, you're looking at
another angle that I touched on a bit here before the break, the political side of things. And we heard President Biden in the White House saying that he's already, quote unquote, concerned here. Let's actually take a listen to the White House.
What I can tell you as a general matter, no matter who owns or runs Twitter, the president has long been concerned about the power of large social media platforms, the power they have over our everyday lives, has long argued that tech platforms must be held accountable for the harms they cause. He's been a strong supporter of fundamental reforms to achieve that goal, including reforms to Section 230, enacting antitrust reforms, requiring more transparency, and more. And he's encouraged that there's bipartisan interest in Congress. In terms of what hypothetical policies might happen, I'm just not going to speak to that at the
Jared, coming to you, I more or less cut you off going to the break here. Your thoughts on the White House reaction? Why is the president voicing concern the day after a legal business acquisition?
Well, in my opinion, I believe it's mostly to do with the fact that his polling is absolutely atrocious. The midterm election is coming up. His party is also going downhill. And Twitter was one of those places in which he knew that there was a base of getting his point across. Now that Elon Musk has come in, seemingly a little bit more right-wing, and may have some people rejoining, couldn't put a damper onto Biden's overall social presence. So Biden is a bit nervous, understandably, because, well, his, rival, the biggest rival he has, may actually come back to the platform and bring all his followers with him.
Liad, is he coming back? Is Trump coming back to the platform? Is that where this is going?
Who knows? I mean, after the great success of his own platform, who knows? But I do think, Jared, that this is a bit narrow looking at it, because when we look at Twitter as a platform or social media as a platform as a whole, it is not about the midterm elections, and it is not about the US alone. It's about the outcomes that those social platforms that started out as startup companies, worked their way as private companies, are now sort of in the public eye, have allowed such things as fake news from both sides, such things as even the debate about global warming or vaccination to arise to specific audiences and to change mind based on lies, nothing more. That is the core, again, ideological element and shift that we're seeing with this buy. It's not about that or other senator, or not even about that or other president. And Elon Musk understands that the power is not necessarily sits within the White House at the moment.
But do you think President Biden's concern, was it about Trump? I mean, is that your read that essentially, this massive Twitter presence may return?
I would agree with Jared that yes, there is the immediate concern about your political adversary, sure. But when you hear the words, what you're looking at is the concern. And by the way, I have a full belly about how the American government is reacted towards social media in the last 10 years as a whole. But there is a bigger problem with the way the platforms are changing the conversation rather than that of other candidate. Even if that candidate is as, let's call it vocal as Donald Trump.
Jared, your thoughts. I'll come back to you on this. Yes. Sorry if you have a point, Liad. I'm sorry to cut off your point if there's a point, but I want to hear it again from Jared. Yes.
I do actually think, though, that Trump's Truth Social, I think, unfortunately for him, it's probably going to die now that Elon Musk seemingly bought Twitter, right? So you have Trump now gonna rejoin Twitter, most likely. All his followers are going to be coming back. I think that's the biggest problem for Biden. It's the narrow mindset of the American government is mainly, how do I stay in power? How do my constituents stay in power for the longest time? I don't necessarily believe that Biden nor any sort of congressperson, be it Nancy Pelosi, be it even Donald Trump for that matter, cares about privacy, cares about the American people as much as how do I get my votes in, how do I stay in power, and how do I seemingly make sure that my party comes across on top all the time.
The message.
So with Twitter basically seemingly shifting more towards the right, it makes it so that all these smaller platforms in which we can say we're far right are now going to come back. Yeah.
Let me suggest a thought exercise. What if it was Trump who bought Twitter and not that high-tech billionaire? Or what if it was Soros who bought Twitter? What would be the reactions? What I believe is that the reactions would not have been very different. It's not about the hand who controls the wheel. It's about understanding that there is a wheel. Because until about 2 years ago, when COVID hit, or we can maybe draw a line at 2016 elections, we felt towards those platforms as if they are ours. And what we see, step by step, brick by brick, breaking the wall, but understanding that those platforms, like news outlets, like radio stations, and so on, are just handled by private people. And that specific person being so vocal allows us to see beyond, I don't want to call it a mask, but beyond the veil of this kind of freedom of speech, so to speak. And this puts us in a position where we, as digital consumers, need to understand, A, how do we protect ourselves? And B, how do we make our officials, how our governments to protect us? And it goes for crying wolf from both sides. Republicans crying wolf that they are not allowed on Twitter anymore, blah, 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 or Democrats crying wolf that fascists are coming, whatever. We need to find a way and make our governments to find regulation that on the one hand blocks the tech companies themselves from causing harm, and on the other, blocking harm from coming into those platforms. Again, push away the pedophiles and Nazis on the one hand, but push away control and privacy on the other. And it's not that big of an ask. I mean, we ask it from every retailer. So why not social media?
You touched on the midterms. I mean, the presidential election is virtually around the corner as well. We saw Twitter feature hugely in the scandal or in previous elections. Is this now going to be the great free-for-all medium platform going into this next series of elections?
I actually don't see it as going to be the be-all, end-all type of platform. I think what we're going to see is hopefully the kind of censorship or the regulations that were in place before. I'm hoping that Elon Musk doesn't just destroy them and get rid of them so that we don't have bots coming in and saying one way or the other way, vote this, vote that. I do believe that Elon Musk might try and protect freedom of speech for a little bit longer than what we're kind of led to believe.
He'll certainly be challenged. Yeah.
I'm hoping that basically it's not going to come to that. I'm not convinced that only one platform will be able to do it, because we did see, for example, with the 2016 election, Facebook played a huge part in Donald Trump's basically claim to fame. So you had Twitter and Facebook working together along with YouTube. So you had all these aspects. Twitter is just one little aspect of this grander scale of social media.
Liad, any closing thoughts here? We got about a minute left.
Yeah, maybe one more reflection. When you look at numbers, raw data, the number of Twitter users is still not 30% of the US, active users, is not close to 30% of the actual voters. A lot of what happens on those platforms really becomes important when news outlets, which people are still consuming, making it big. And I hope that now that like the masks are off and we see who controls the wheel, maybe we will get some more coverage about things that are happening outside of that or another platform, which will also allow us to kind of reclaim our own space in those platforms as well.
Thank you very much, Liad Herman, Jared DeLuna. Appreciate both of you being with us here on a major topic of the day. So thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.